Today we're going to do two and a half lot. We're up to Amri, which is on Basil and Base. Alpha and Base, almost at the bottom. Amri Vomas Nisa. You might not have the word Amri, so you might just have Vomas Nisa Pliga. Vomas Nisa Pliga?
Yeah.
Okay, you have this place, Dr. Spinell?
There's a asterisk. No, there's a further down.
Almost at the end, last 5 lines or so. No, you have the exact same Gemara.
There's a little ballad right there.
Okay, Amri Vomasisa Pligo. So I have the word Amri. They said this Mishnah argues that we learned last week. The Rosh Gamliel says that somebody who became deaf mute can write. And when he writes, that makes his intent clear. They said this following brisa argues. Well, Tzninata, when we learned over there, Nischareshu on the Shtata. You don't have that? You mean it starts from down there, buddy?
No, I'm sorry. Vamasnisa Pligan. Let's move up to the Gimel. He's up a little higher than
okay. Amri Vamasnisa Pliga. The Tzninata, we learned over there, Nischaresh on the Shtata, a person who became deaf or went to say Enomotzi Olamis. He never can divorce his wife. So rather than Shingam Leo, because according to Shingam Leo, let him write and let other people see that he wrote and let that be a valid way of issuing the divorce. So that can't be like Rosh Gamliel. So it's more kimunu. So kimuna I have when we understand, or we set up the brisa, which says that somebody who went deaf cannot be megarish b'sheni yodei l'chdov, where he's illiterate. Since he's illiterate, so therefore he can't divorce. What? He can't show intent at all. Meisi Rav Memel, so Rav Memel Sakasha v'masisa pliga. Wait a minute, what about this brisa? This brisa certainly argues. What does this brisa say? It says, person wrote a get in his own hand. V'amar, and he said, I'm sorry, he didn't write the get, sorry. He wrote in his own hand, V'amar, and he said via the handwriting, la sofer, to a scribe, lichsov, write the get, v'leidim, and he said again via his handwriting to aid him, chasomu, to sign, ava bishakasu v'chasmu v'nastulo, even though they wrote the get, and they signed it, and they gave it to the deaf mute guy, the chasav v'nastulo, and he gave it to his wife, ain't no get, it's not a valid get. So we see clearly that writing is not a valid means of setting up the get process, right? Because he was not allowed to express his intent by writing. Not recently in Gittin, yeah, this appears in Gittin, yeah, it is in Gittin. Same idea, yeah. Rabbi Yisrael said, Amar Seifo. Let's look at the end of the brisa. Velesi pliga and just a second. Yeah. Okay, right. I'm Rabbi Yossi. Emer say, let's look at the brisa. The lacy pliga, and then you'll see it's no machlokas. How so? The end of the brisa says, "Eino get," that the get is not a valid get. Achishmu kolo, until they can hear his voice. That he says that I want you guys to divorce my wife. Shomer l'soifer ksov. He says to the scribe to write. However, that's the way the end of the brisa begins. Then the end of the brisa continues. The low sof darat shishmakol. They don't specifically have to hear this voice. Even if he nodded his head when they asked him, "Should we write your wife again?" That's sufficient. Atomar leiskan. Now, there's no additional value in nodding a head over writing, right? It would seem that both are oblique, not oblique, but Right, and unless it works. So we see that even these ambiguous, semi-ambiguous means of expressing intent work. So therefore, writing should work as well. So it must.
They asked him the question. How did he hear?
Yeah, they asked him a question. No, this is a different case. There's somebody who can't talk, right? So right, so they can hear. So if he nods with his head, so then that's sufficient. So if that's the case, why can't he write? Must be that writing is sufficient as well. So what is wrong with writing? It must be, although the Gemara itself doesn't say this, the Kavanoki brings this down. It must be that if he writes down the commission to write the get, that falls in the category of milei lo mimsron l'shliach. In other words, you cannot appoint a milei mimsron l'shliach means I can't appoint somebody to appoint a shliach on my behalf. There's no such thing. I have to give over the authority directly to an agent. So here, it's like milei lo mimsron l'shliach. I can't give over the power of appointment to a shliach. Here, what I would be doing is by writing it down, I'd be vesting the power of appointment in the handwriting, and that in turn would create the shlichus. So therefore, it must be that the chisaron is not in the handwriting per se, because there's no qualitative shortcoming in handwriting over nodding heads, but rather the problem is that what I'm doing is vesting the authority in a piece of paper, which in turn is vesting authority in an individual, and that is a no-no. Okay? I know it's a stretch, but it's not such a big stretch. No, it's not so good for you. Says more, yes. Zilch. Nothing. You're totally off base. If you want, we can try and deal with it anyway, but it's completely irrelevant. Okay? Ramana said, Iskan. No. There is a Tana who argues here. In other words, you want to say there's no qualitative difference between nodding and writing. That's not true. There is a Tana here who argues on Rav Shimon Gamliel, and Hishmias Kol Hiyar Konas Rosh. It's the same whether somebody says yes, write the get, or when we ask him, do you want us to write a get, he nods yes. But there's a qualitative difference between that and writing. And therefore, the end of the brisa, which sanctions both when he tells us and when he nods his head, is sanctioning specifically these two means of communication and precluding the means of communication, which would consist of his writing the permission in to whoever he wants to write the get. So therefore, this in fact argues Shin Gamliel according to Rabbi Yimona. Rabbi Bezira boy kumi Rabbi Yimona. Rabbi Bezira asked in front of Rabbi Yimona. Now we're in Beis Hamad Alf. When it says that would says that according to you, of course, that nodding is sufficient. It's just like as if you hear. Well, if that's the case. Just like when it says when he nods, you have to check him 3 times. In other words, you have to ask him 3 questions on 3 different topics. Like so the White Sox play in Chicago, and then you ask him, it's the tallest building in the world, the Empire State Building. And then you ask him, you want to give your wife a get. So you have to check him 3 times. That's what we do in lie detector. They ask a series of non-questions. Mm-hmm. And then they get to the right. Details. Okay, so you have to do the same thing, because here you have to really get him to... I know that they ask routine questions first, and then they get to exactly. So here you have to do it because you have to determine that his nodding is significant. It's not just, he's going like this the whole time, right? Right now, I'm see. So therefore, the kavasa yishmu kolo shlosha parmin. You also have to hear him speak 3 times, but you have to ask him 3 questions when he's verbal. Says more Amar no. If he can verbalize, we assume that he's being intelligent. If you need to find out whether his nodding is intelligent, then you have to check him 3 times. Rabbi Yirmiyah says, Tamon b'yomer kach v'kach osisi. Rabbi Yehuda says there's a following distinction. When do I say ksiva is good enough? This is a very strange distinction. The Gemara is going to shoot it down. Rabbi Yehuda says, when do I say writing is good enough? When he does it retroactively. Just make sure it's recording. Let's get paranoid. Okay, yeah, it is on. So, when he says I did say retroactively, a person can testify in writing that I did X, Y, Z. However, when does it not work? When a person gives a charge to people and say in writing and says, "Do such and such for me," that does not work. Rabbi Binyamin Bar Levi booed this boy. He asked the question on this. He said, "If he's intelligent, so intelligence knows no difference between past and future activities. If he's intelligent enough to know what he has done and to state that in writing, he also can give directions for the future as well. He has no intelligence retroactively. He has no intelligence for the future. Right, but here we're talking about short-term, past and future. Right, we're not talking about where the seeds starting long ago. Okay, says more further. Rav Dina said, we're talking about over here that where cheresh is no good, even where he writes in. Okay, even according to Rabbi Shlomo who holds that a ksiva does normally work, so it doesn't work when you're trying to appoint somebody to write the get. Why is that? Because the ain't shlichus l'cheresh. A person who's deaf mute cannot appoint the shliach. Rabbi Yisrael said, of course we're talking about a deaf mute, but we're talking about one who took sick suddenly. Didn't it you Rabbi Yisrael and Rav Dimi says talking about one who was a cheresh from the get-go. And he can't write in his permission to give a get. Perhaps in some other case, permission could be given in writing, but not somebody who was a cheresh from the get-go, from the beginning. Rabbi Yisrael says, no, our mission is even talking about a case where a person was healthy to begin with. Why is it not a get now? And I say that when he got his sudden illness, it afflicted his mind, and now he no longer knows what a get really means. He might think a get means some other form of shtar altogether. Because get can sometimes mean the generic for shtar. So therefore, he might think that he's saying, well, write me a shtar, write me a document, and not necessarily a get. The Tanya came also into the Brisa. When is this true? When do I have to check a guy 3 times? Because, by nodding, because in the case where he was, in the case where he was well yesterday, all of a sudden became sick today. But if it was a gradual thing, right, that he became gradually paralyzed over time, in that case you don't have to check him out 3 times, 1 time is sufficient, even for the checking of our konas harosh. Okay, again, when a person nods, we have to check him 3 times. When do we have to check a person 3 times? Only when there was a sudden attack. But it's over time, so we assume, as long as we don't see indications otherwise, that he still retains his sanity, and therefore we only have to check him out once, we don't have to check him out 3 times. Okay? So we see there is a difference between a case of somebody who's a cheresh from the beginning, or became a cheresh gradually, and a person became a cheresh overnight. Okay, it says more, Matana cheresh. Who's the Tana in our Mishnah who said that we're talking about a cheresh, and that a cheresh cheresh, we said in our Mishnah, cannot take off truma. Who's the Tana who said our Mishnah cheresh cannot take off truma? The Lok Rabbi Yehuda. It's not like Rabbi Yehuda. The Tana we learned. Now you probably don't have the next line. I have Rabbi Yehuda mer cheresh shetaram truma. So truma. Do you have that line? Rabbi Yehuda says a cheresh who took up truma is a valid truma. So our Mishnah must not be going like that, Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda said, "Ma'aseh b'bonav shor Rabbi Yochanan ben Gudgoda I'll prove to you that somebody who's a chevish can't take off trumas amaisus. There's a case with the sons of Rabbi Yochanan Gudgoda, Shukulam Chershim, who were all deaf, but you called Taros Rabbi Yerushalmi Naso Gabeim, and they were so properly entrusted with the safekeeping of all stuff which is Torah and Yerushalayim. So we see that they have intellect. Amrulo, so they said, no, that's different. Since Taros does not require, in order to maintain something tar, you don't need thought. What do you need to keep something tar? Just safekeeping. Shmir. So it says the Chesh and Cotton don't have intent. They don't have machshava. But what do they have? They do have the capacity to be shomer. No. You got it. That's what Yerushalmi says here. Okay? Since Taras don't require any machshava, the Nasos Agabi Cheir Shed V'Kotan, that's a Cheir Shed V'Kotan can engage in that. However, Trumas Amaisa, of course, to separate Trumas Amaisa, Tzich Machshava that requires machshava, requires Torah. Now it says more, wait a minute, even those things, Dr. Fidel's question, even those things require Shmira, they only require Shmira. Aren't many of them rendered unfit if somebody's distracted and it's not safeguarding them properly the whole time. Lilo said, Machshava ekos ben Shmira ekos ben. You know what? They're not. The only thing which ruins them is machshava, is improper thoughts. What by taros, right? What does not ruin them? Shmira. I'm saying wrong. Machshava does not ruin them; they retain their character as taros, right? However, what does ruin the hesed chadas only specifically when one needs to requires machshava. I'm still not making it clear. One more time. That which is contingent on shmira, even a kotzah can do. For shmira they have. What don't they have? Machshava. They don't have intent. That which is contingent intent, such as making truma, that they cannot do. And that's again the last line. Rabbi Yisrael Abba Elo says it doesn't require intellect. All he needs is a scarecrow, right? Okay? Right. Rabbi Yisrael said again, Machshava ain't kosuban, Shmira kosuban. It says only Machshava you have to make sure that he has proper Machshava. That's only the case of Truma, but not in the case of Shmira. So therefore, in the case of Shmira, a Katan can be Sherma as well. And that's halacha l'maisa in this Gemara. That a Katan can watch things, Katan can be Sherma things, even though he doesn't have intent how to do. Maybe I want to give a little bit of a lumdish spin to this. A Katan can't do transactions, but Shmira is not a transaction. A Katan is intelligent. His intellect is not mature. So to be shomer, you need to be intelligent. You have to know, don't touch. But you don't need an intellect. What requires an intellect? Transaction. What's called in the brisker parlance a chales. So it takes that something should take effect. That Katanim don't have. Okay? Well, nobody knows how to define chalais. I once had a talk with Rebbe Elio about it. How do you define chalais? The briskers use chalais as a catch-all term for anything which is not quite a kinyan. But so it's hard to know how to define it. But the way and Reb Baruch Beer, I think, had a different definition for chalais. But the way I define chalais is as I said, is a something which requires effect taking, and not necessarily a kin. It may be a kinyan or may not be a kinyan. But as requires taking effect, and truma requires, of course, taking effect. That a kotzon cannot do. Okay. V'ashoita. Now we learn something which is relevant to all of us. How we determine finally that we are shoitim. So Tani, we learn simone shoita. What are the simone that I am a shoita? Hayoytze balayla. Somebody walks around south of Devon. He walks out the divan at night. But long vase, of course, walk a dog, yeah. Long vase, of course, somebody who sleeps in a cemetery. Somebody who rips his garments. Somebody who loses that which is given to him. So you have to be engaged in all these activities together. If not, I'm chus on each one of them. And I say, somebody who goes at night, he's a kani trofus. It means he's too hot, he needs air. Alon Beisakfar, somebody who sleeps in the cemetery, Makdil Shadim, he's not insane, he's a witch. Sorcerer, right? He's giving sacrifices to the demons. I'm a Karesk, so somebody who tears his garments. Kulikus. Kulikus means he's an angry man. Okay? I don't know why the derivation from Greek could all these things, right? Somebody who loses that which you give him. Kuraikus. Some other type of, behavior which is not insane. It's just a character trait. It could be, but it's short of shtus. So it would be like a psychosis, right? But it wouldn't be a person who's insane. Rabbi Yochabar, I feel about men, even one of them makes you shoyte. Rabbi Boom Mistabra, my dumb Rabbi Yochabar, feel about men that Rabbi Yochabar said even one of them makes you shoyte. Bilvad, as long as that is the trait of Meva'abed is Mashos, somebody who loses that which is given to him. Normally, even the most idiotic fool among fools doesn't lose anything. So if somebody loses something constantly, intentionally, willfully, then such a person is in the parameter of shoyte. Okay? For Kudaikus, now Kudaikus is in a medical condition. It's a Gemara in Gittin, Bishop in Gittin. Because that is a medical condition when it impedes somebody from giving a get, but it's not complete insanity. And it doesn't have any of the traits of the previous types of insanity. Mao Kudaikus, what's Kudaikus? Rabbi Yossi Hamim. Now Hamim means he's in a state of shock. In modern Hebrew it's called Himu. So he's in a state of shock. A person's state of shock is called Kudaikus, and he may not write again. Okay? He may not give command to write again. Asuf the Kumar to Rabbi Yochanan. And how do we know a guy was Kudaikus? So this is a case. Ma'isa came for Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yossi, with one weaver. They would put red thread in with this black thread. And he would weave. He wouldn't pay attention. And vice versa. Ukam goes somewhere, they put black thread into his red thread. He would continue working. Omar, so they said, they knew Kudaikus, this guy's Kudaikus, was so oblivious, in such a state of shock, for whatever reason, that he can't tell the difference between black and red. Tanya, we learned, Pamim Shaita Pamim Chalo. What about a guy who's sometimes sane and sometimes insane? When he's insane, then he's not insane. He can't write again. But when he's lucid, then he's like a lucid person in all matters. Asuf to Kumid Shmuel, a Maisa like this came before Shmuel. Varme said, Kadu Chaloim Yitin Get. You have somebody who's sometimes sane, sometimes insane. So when he's sane, he can give a get. Now it's important like this. It has to be that the get is written and given over when he's sane, in one of his sanity periods, for however long that lasts. But it's an hour or a day, but that's when you have to do it. In the window of opportunity, one his sanity says sane periods, okay? So it says more, Ma Shmuel Rab Shimon Lakish Shmuel, what are we saying? Shmuel Rab Shimon Lakish, Shimon Lakish Shmuel Shtape. Shmuel Rab Shimon Lakish says, somebody who's in this state of affairs, you can only give a get that when he gets fully healed. In other words, when he's already proven normalcy beyond the shadow of a doubt, not just when grace, he's in one of his mood swings back and forth. Okay. Ruba the Shmuel, so says the one the Chara of Shmuel and Rish Lakish saying the same thing. No. Ruba Shmuel Shimon Lakish. Shmuel's Chiddush is greater than Shimon Lakish. To Amar Kadu Chalum Yitain Get, because Shmuel said that somebody who's in the upswing can give a get, even though he might go back to the downswing later on. Whereas Rav Shlogish holds, in order to give a get, he's got to break out of this whole cycle, right? Otherwise, he can't give a get. Okay? So it says the Gemara, Chalom. But how do we know that Chalom means to be healed? Because of Pasuk. Chalom atachlimeini v'achayeni, you healed me and I survived. So we see that Chalom means to be healed. Okay? Says the Gemara further. Vakoton. Do you have Vakoton? My Tana Koton. Who's the Tana who mentions Koton, that a Koton cannot give a get? Look, Rabbi Yehuda. Tana we learned Koton Tana Rabbi Yehuda. Tana we learned the Brisa. Koton shenichu aviv b'mikshah. A child who was left by his father in the pumpkin patch. And he was being turned in the pumpkins. Aviv meichal yado truma. And his father is selling after the son takes off the trumas of Maisers. The Kotan's truma is valid truma. How could that be? How could the Kotan's truma be valid truma? Oh, it says Amish is not valid truma, right? What? So what do you do? How does that make a truma? The kids can't designate as truma, right?
The father is using the son as a shliach.
So it must be that he's using the kid as a shliach. The father's using the father's using the kid as a shliach. Says the Gemara, so that seems to indicate that couldn't take of truma. No, says Gemara, lohu shetorim. It's not that the kid is taking of truma as a shliach of the father, which would be a very big chiddush. Elohu she'imen al yodo. Rather, the gadol is like oimen al gabot. He's standing over and directing the katan. Then that's why the katan can now take truma. Okay, so it has to be with direction, not by proxy. That's the big difference. When a normal shliach, it's by proxy. He goes and does the work while you sit home and do whatever you read the paper, right? But here, he actually has to be involved, right, and be training on the job, and then wait, because the katan is considered subordinate to him. Yeah, that's true. Okay. If the father comes and trains his hands, is it l'mafreya, not his truma? What about all the stuff he shechted till now? Has become not shechted, that he has said took out truma till now. I was thinking. Say this on tape. But I was thinking that somebody asked me when I was in Detroit over the weekend, over Sukkot. So they asked me, they have a corned beef in the freezer from Romania, from Lifnei Maisa. So they're allowed to eat it. So I said yes. So I'm a liberal kind of rabbi. So I said they're allowed to. So now we have a similar shaila here. The father comes and sees that his kid took off truma. The kid is a minor. So l'mafreya, it works for sure. Retroactively, it works. The shaila is, does it work here on in? What do we mean from here on in? So that which the katan is going to take off now, and when the father is not present, father walks away. It's basically what was done till now. Now the father knows about it. He gives sanction. But when the father gives sanction about something he will not know about, which the Kohen is about to do. That's where it's kasha. I'm Rabbi Shammai Nishmina Mina Dod Tanya. Let's read the following price, which says, Hachesha Bo Balabais. The Balabais came, and he found it's a very famous word, appears in the Bavli a couple of times, at least once. A Balabais comes and finds a worker standing in his field and take up trumas for him. A nice guy came and took up trumas. Amar Le, so if the Balabais says, I want you to take better stuff from truma. If the tak is better stuff somewhere in the yard, then the guy who took up truma knew he was doing the right thing. At the rabbi, word up to the farmer, he'd give even more, right? So we see that retroactively that which he took off becomes truma. Bilav, however, if he's afraid, so and he has to be afraid of gezel. That maybe, in other words, if the Baal Bas doesn't, if the Baal Bas says take from the better stuff, and it turns out there is no better stuff, so what was the Baal Bas? He was just being sarcastic. So therefore, it's no proof that he's agreeable in that case. And that's why all the truma you already took off is in doubt, because maybe it's not valid truma. Maybe he didn't want you to take off truma. Now, this whole Bryce is talking about retroactively, as I said. This whole Bryce is talking about looking back, and somebody took off truma from your field without your permission, whether I told that you acquiesce and therefore it's valid, or you don't acquiesce and therefore it's not valid. However, what about Mikanu Lahaba? Right? Now we come to the part about Mikanu Lahaba. Bring me here on it. Vima Yaloikit V'Noisin. If the Baal Bas is saying, give out the truma, here's some more, and he actually gave it to him in his hands. So then, so that means that the Baal Bas really wants him to continue with this activity, and therefore even works Mikanu Lahaba. So after you saw this, can you say, my friend, now it's a truma, only comes truma retroactively, below Mikanu Lahaba, not in the future, of Hachasotir, where the father gives permission for the cotton. It's not just permission on what the cotton did already, sanction that could be considered truma, but whatever the cotton takes off from here and in, Mikanu Lahaba, not its truma, will become truma based on what halachic principle, Dr. Spindel? One of your all-time favorites after Piegel. Based on what halachic principle can the father say whatever you take off will be true, or even Mikanu Lahaba? Whatever you take off. You're going to kick yourself, I tell you. I'll give you a hint. Starts at the base. Next letter is a resh. Now I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed for you two. Breira. Yes. Because I have to know. I don't know now what's going to be truma, right? On the past, so the father could say, you took off that, let that be truma. But on the future, how can it be true in the future? It's breira. So really, this only word we pass the breiras doesn't work by the Oraisos, only by the Rabbanans. So this must be at the Rabbanan, which attack is because we're talking about truma of pumpkin. So by the Raisa, this whole thing would not work. Okay? See, you should have known that, right? Okay. Somebody takes a truma that which is not his, it's not valid. We said in our Mishnah, Tani, we learned Atem, you take up truma, Pratla Shutfim as opposed to your partners. Atem, you take up truma, Pratla Ritz as opposed to your sharecroppers. Okay? Atem, also Atem, Pratla Apotropsi. You take up truma, not guardians. Now we're going to analyze all these three categories. Atem Pratla Toy Meshenu Shalo, you take off truma as opposed to somebody who it's not his. And Atem Lo Shutfim. And you are not your partners. But then we learn our Shutfim Shatar Muzeach Harzeh T'chulei. Then we learn Shutfim who took off truma one after the other. So what? I don't have that. I just have a shutfim. No, did I say that? Yeah, but the first one's partner, not the second one. First partner, but not the second one. Because by the time the second one came around, it was already taken off. You can't. It's in succession. Partner 1 took on partner 2. That's Val. Partner 2 can't take on partner 1 because already is all said and done. Right? That rhymes. They took truma in succession. So the partner 1 and number 2 works. Partner 2 and number 1 does not work. So the clear we see here that partners can take up truma of each other. So first of all, I could try is a very strange answer. Khan. Where do we say partners can take off truma on each other? Truma gedola. That's the first truma, because there it doesn't say atem. Kal trumas meiser. But where it says atem, meaning in the context of the trumas meiser, which is the additional tenth which a Levi takes off to give it to Kohen, that's where it doesn't work to do it by partners. That's more a boo. Klum lom the truma gedolim and trumas meiser, they're linked to each other. So therefore you can't differentiate between the two. Ela kan la locha kan la meiser. It's fascinating. If I was more of a scholar, this would fascinate me even more. But I'm not a big scholar, just learning. But he says, kan la locha means l'chatchila. Kan la meiser is b'di'evet. There must be some Musar Haskell in this. Or it's Lamaisa sometimes after the line b'di'evet. But what he's saying is, l'chatchila, one shutav can't take from another shutav. That's the halacha, ideally. B'di'evet, were it to have been done, so that's l'maisa, what happens in deed or in practice. Okay? Atev lo apotropim, you take off truma, not a guardian. V'atin didn't learn Yisoimim. Shech samchu eitel ba'al bayis. Yisoimim were living by a certain ba'al bayis. Hoshmila ma'avin an apotropos, so their father designated for them apotropos. Chayiv las their parents saying apotropos does take off meiser from their parents. Zakasha, so Chavrai and Omrin, so the Chevre wanted to say, Kamba Troposola. Apotropos, who has a permanent job as an apotropos, he could take off Meiser on Yisrael's property. Kamba Apotropos is a guy who's an apotropos only temporarily. He cannot take off he cannot take off any property or any amount to give it to Truma. Rabbi Yossi said, don't like that. If it's talking about a permanent guardian, and a permanent guardian is one who can take off Trumas and Meisers. So, Tani, what you learn concerning this, that this permanent guardian can only sell slaves but not real estate. Permanent guardian, one who's given the position as a regular, salaried position, he can sell anything he wants for the Yisrael's benefit, not just avodim, even karkos. What? Here you have a metalton. Same idea though. So it's more el cambiosum godo cambiosum. What? Yeah, I know. No, I'm just saying. No, you're right. Our Mishnah is more monolithic than that one. It's more diverse, but it's the same idea in principle. Avolo karkos. So you can tell them, I'm sorry, so that's by the end of Kasha. Kambiasum Gadol, Kambiasum Kotu. So everyone says it's a machlokas. Some will hold that we're talking about a Yosum Gadol. Well, not some. It's not a machlokas. Take that back. When does the Brisa say now Petropus cannot take off Trumos and Meiser for his guarded Yisraelim? When the head of the household is the Yosem Gadol, let him make his own decisions, right? But when Kambi Yosem Gadol, where the head of the household is a minor, there the Apotropos can make a decision on his behalf. Okay? Atem. Prat l'torim b'shein shalom. Ma ovidle. Atem, which excludes somebody from the Teo Truna, which is not his. What's ma ovidle means literally, what does it do? But here means, what's the lomdus of it? B'torim b'shein shalom, we talk about what's the shortcoming, because it's not his, or b'torim b'shel chaver, because it belongs to somebody else. Again, when I'm turning that which is not mine, it's clear that it's not mine, or it's clear that it's somebody else's. So, of course, this is pilpulistic hair splitting at its best, right? It's worse. So what's the connotation here, right? So it says, the Gemara, Mabinon, who cares? You don't have Mabinon, do you? Yeah, because your Gemara cares. But here it says, Mabinon, who cares? So it says, I'll tell you, I'll give you a case. Hivkir is kirio. You made your kri, that's your pile of grain, hefker, and then you have the wrong word here. You have umircho, right? No, that's a mistake. Unfortunately, yeah, because obviously, because that would be potter altogether. So hivkir is kirio the tormo. And he put truma on it, or not on it, but he was clearing it. And then he acquired the carry again. the silo again. If you're going to say the problem is you can't turn anything which is not yours, so in this case, ain't truma. The truma you took off wasn't yours because you're mafkir. It's not valid truma. But you're going to say it's betonim as shel chavero. That the problem is not taking truma of something which is generic, but taking of something truma which is something which belongs to your friend. So in this case, it never belongs to your friend. Therefore, truma is a truma. The truma is a valid truma. Let's start out from the following case. The Tanino we learned in a Mishnah or Mishnah. Gone up Truma's Hektish. Somebody stole the Truma from Hektish. No, it's Hektish had Truma. And they stole it. Vachla, and then he eats it. Mishalim Shnei Chumash has got to pay 2/5. 1/5 to the to Truma, with the Kohanim, another 5 to the Kodesh, to the regular pushkas in the base on Mikdash. So says the Gemara, Manu. Why is that? Why only give the Karen in 2/5? There's no Tashlumi Kefil. There's no double payment to Hektish, only to Hediot, only to a regular person. Manu Torem, that's the end of Brisa. Now it says more, who took off the Truma? Lo Gizbar, didn't the treasurer take off the Truma, the treasurer based on Mikdash? It's not his. What you're saying, somebody ate Truma of Hektish. How did it become Truma of Hektish? How could he have Hektish stuff which becomes Truma? It must be that the Gizbar, the treasurer in the base of Mikdash, he took off that Truma. Well, that's fine and good, but that proves, says the Gemara, he's being turned out which is not his. Truma, so Truma, and you see the Truma's about Truma. So you see that even if it's not yours, you could still take off Truma, because this guy who took off Truma, the Gizbar, it's not his, and yet nonetheless he's taking off Truma. Right? Case where the Gizbar was the one who made it Truma. In other words, it got to Hektish untied, and then you tied. That's not what it's talking about. So about a case where it got to Hektish already tied. There was whoever owned it before it got to Hektish, he's the one who took Truma off of it. Okay? Says the Gemara, have a last time a door. There is no rationale here except I'm sorry. I didn't get the case wrong. I read this wrong. Oh, you'll see. Let me go back a line. Have'ele's time is continuation of the same line. Have'ele's time ador. So it must be that the only time it's a problem. That exclude you being turned something which is not yours is where you turn that which belongs to your friend outright, but not where you turn something which, on the contrary, is something which is nobody's, because the Gizbar is being Torem, the grain of Hektish, which is nobody's. Says we're no. Oh no, my amount of turn. Maybe we'll say on the other end in our case. Who takes the Truma off the Hektish? Ben Levi shake this Truma. The Ben Levi, the Levi who had the Meiser, who took off the Truma's Meiser. Maybe he's the one who took off Truma. Taka Hektish, Gizbar can't take Truma off of Hektish. That's why that can't be. Because Vatani Rabbi Yisha say that this whole price is like about Echora Makdish Tivlu, whether you're being Makdish stuff which is Tevel, not tied at all, Echora Makdish Trumaso, or you Makdish stuff which is already Truma. So therefore we see clearly that the Gizbar has the din of Hektish and can stand there in lieu of Hektish, and he can do stuff. Because it says here, even if Hektish got his Tevel, somehow later on it can become Truma in the hands of the Gizbar. So we see the Gizbar can impact on property which is not directly part of the sorry, let me reiterate that I lost my train of thought in the middle. We see that the Gizbar can affect a impact even on stuff which is not his, because he's getting tevel and he's taking Truma off of it. So we see he can take Truma off stuff which is tevel, even though it's not yours.
Say really is his, because the Gizbar.
What I was about to say. Ravida said, Gizbar commandinum bailim, who the treasurer of Hektish, he's in charge of Hektish. Okay? With Lok Rabbi Yossi. There's now Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi Amar who Gisbar Uacher. Rabbi Yossi said a Gisbar is a foreigner visiting Ekdesh, but you're right. The Gemara says like here. Okay, Nochish Torah. In Nochish cannot take Truma. Rabbi Zir, Rabbi Acha, Rabbi Yasa, Rabbi Yochanos, B'Shem Rabbi Yanai, Hatem Gamatem. It says you, and it says also you. The Rabbi Shluchachim say you can make mess agents. Matem neighbors, but just like you are members of the covenant, Shluchachim neighbors, so too your agents have to be members of the covenant. Meaning, Atem Oisim Shli. Well. You can be only Jews can be your shluchim, and for this we extrapolate. Not only can only Jews be the shluchim, but only Jews can make shluchim. Okay. When can't the goy make a shliach? John can't make Chris a shliach, but John can make Yankov a shliach. He can make a Jewish shliach. Rabbi Zir said, you're learning the drasha wrong. Minei, learn the drasha from it, uminei, and from it on both accounts. Atem oisim shliach, lo b'Yisrael, just like you make a shliach. Is that not talking about Yisrael? The kavos is so too. Then a goyos or shliach, that which a goy cannot make shliach. But I feel Yisrael is even talking about where it's trying to make Yisrael as a shliach. It doesn't work. Goyim around the parish of shlichus. Says more. Wait a minute. I said Rabbi Yoshia. Rabbi Yoshia asked the kasha. Well, Mastisa Messiah Rabbi Yossi. We have a brisa which is a riot for Rabbi Yossi. You have Rabbi Yochanan.
So you might have the proper shiur. The proper shiur is 5 ounces. 0.
Are you sure you have Rabbi Yochanan? He's saying there's a riot for Rabbi Yossi. Why is he saying it's a riot for Rabbi Yossi?
Okay, let's see what Rashi
Truth is, where's Rabbi Yossi appear here? By Gizbar, that's not relevant. That's not relevant. Yeah, but which Rabbi Yossi is referring to? Yeah, it's my rap folder. That doesn't help. Well, there it is. 4 lines up. That a goy can make Yisrael into a shliach. Okay? So the following brings the riot for Rabbi Yossi. Tanya Rishingam said, it's a funny riot. This is riot. A guy, if he doesn't want to turn his parents, he doesn't have to, right? Sounds like if he wants to, though, what can he do? Hell yeah, he can. The question is, how can he do it? It's a guy. So that's a riot for Rabbi Yossi. We got the riot very quickly. So the riot for Rabbi Yossi says you can't do it. The guy, he doesn't have to. Sounds like he can. How can he? He's a guy. Must be by a Jew. So we have a riot that a Jew can be a shliach of a guy. Says more no. Well, first time Ratzah Torah. The riot is if he wants, he can do the truma. There's more on Rabbi Abba. B'mami now yoda. Rabbi Abba. So we're talking about a case where you believe it. We're not. Sorry, not you believe him. It should be like ma'amein. The Kavanaki says. It's like go to Omega. That's right. You stand by the guy and you tell the guy, John, this is how you take off truma. Do this, that, and the other thing. So there's no shlichus for a guy. It's about where you're training him and how to do it. Okay? I thought we'd do more tonight. Sorry. We still haven't done too lot, right? Almost there. Rabbi Yanai. Rabbi Yanai said, Yanai. We'll finish 2 blocks. So Shomer Leben Levi. Yisrael says to a Levi, Kur Meiser Yesh Chabiyadi. You know what? I got a core of Meiser. I'm going to give it to you. For a sizable amount. V'achos Ben Levi, and that Levi goes. So Trumas Meiser Mokamach. He uses this core as Trumas Meiser on another 9 core he has elsewhere, but this is going to be his 10th, which he tithes to give to Cohen. Another 9 which he has somewhere else. Then what does the Yisrael go and do? The slime ball. He goes to give this Meiser to another Levi instead of the one he promised it to, who'd already used it to pater up his chi of Trumas Meiser. So all the first Levi can do is jump up and down and say, not fair, not fair. But he has no recourse. Now, let's analyze it. Says one. This is talking about a case where the Yisrael gave it to the second Levi prior to the first Levi making Trumas Meiser. So at the time the first Levi made Trumas Meiser, he didn't know, but it was already too late. But if the first Levi had designated as Trumas Meiser already before the Yisrael given to another Levi, then the Yisrael can't give it to another Levi. The first Levi can demand it from the second Levi. Kiada Mastisa, like this Brisa, Bita, I made a shliach to take truma from me, and I canceled the shliach. Imachlo term Bita, if I canceled the shlichus before he took off truma, that's a cancellation. Ain't tumas the truma, and the truma is not about truma. But if I cancel him only after he took off already truma, then my cancellation is not a valid cancellation. Now it says more, Bita said, may Kula Mina. How could Kula Mina means where does he have the power to do this? It's hard to translate this. So the equivalent when the Bible says Kol Kamine. Where does he have the power to do this? How does the Levi have the authority to take up Trumas Meiser and that which is not yet his? So all he's working on is a promise, right? So I can make this the designated Trumas Meiser something else. Says Mark, no, that's the way it is. It's not the way it is. There's a lumdus here. Became a Chomerly. Once Yisrael said to the Levi, Kur Meiser Yesh L'cha B'yodi. You have in my possession a core of Meiser which I'm going to give to you. Nasa Shlucho Shozeh. The Levi now becomes like the Shliach of Yisrael. It's a tacit appointment of the Levi to be a Shliach. In other words, giving him agency to go and make that which Yisrael is about to give him Trumas Meiser. That's why it works. Okay? Is that clear? So it says, Rabbi Yossi. So this is also, we can understand this like Rabbi Yossi. The time of Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yossi says, Ba'bayis shetot. Oh, yeah, I do. I left it out inadvertently. Sorry. So therefore, the Levi is doing it with the authorization of the Yisrael. Now, Pasuk Rabbi Yossi, this is similar to Rabbi Yossi. That's how we resolve this like Rabbi Yossi. The Tanya Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yossi says, Ba'bayis shetormes ha-maisrus, or Ba'bayis who takes Trumas Meiser of the Meiser which is in his hands, right? He has Meiser in his hands. He takes Trumas Meiser off of that. So it's a valid Trumas Meiser. It's not his, it's the Levi's, right? It's the Levi's job to take up Trumas Meiser. Nonetheless, we hold that the Baal Bayis can do that himself. Masha also. And that's why you can also point to Levi as being a Shliach to take up Trumas Meiser. Even though right now the Meiser is in the hands of Yisrael. He shouldn't be taking Trumas Meiser, but he's allowed to do so. And that's why you can appoint to Levi, even though Levi hasn't yet, as of yet, not achieved possession, he can appoint the Levi to take off Trumas Meiser as well. Okay? Yisrael said to a Levite, Kur Meiser yesh l'cha b'yodi. I have a Kur Meiser in my hands, which is going to be yours. Chayshes l'Trumas Meiser shabo. The Levi has to assume that maybe the Yisrael actually took off the Trumas Meiser already. Because the Yisrael has the right to take off Trumas Meiser. So maybe he actually took it off. He has to suspect that. However, if the Yisrael then says, I changed my mind. I don't want to give it to you. Here, let me pay you off, though. I'll pay you for what you would have gotten. And he wants to pay him for the amount of he wants. He offers him a sum which is equal to equal to what he would have given him Meiser, and he doesn't deduct the sum of Trumas Meiser. It was really he only owes him 90%, because 10% is going to the Kohen anyway. But he offers him 100% of the full value, right? So in that case, and then the Levi refuses, says, no, I don't want your money, I want your grain. So Levi then takes delivery of the grain. So he assumes that that already he doesn't have to take off any Trumas Meiser. Why does he assume that he doesn't have to take off any Trumas Meiser? Because since he was offered a full $100, it must be the Yisrael held that this whole amount is coming to him. If this whole amount is coming to him, it must be that the Trumas Meiser is already taken off, right? So the Levi can assume the Trumas Meiser is already taken off. In that case, he doesn't have to take off Trumas Meiser again, right? He doesn't assume there's any Trumas Meiser present. And we have a case like this. The Fusa, certain person, you have Rabbi Shimbar Abba Mai, who's a Yisrael, gave Rabbi Shimbar Abba Meiser. And he said to Rabbi Shimbar Abba, you should know I already took off the Trumas Meiser. Because the Fusa, even though he's Yisrael, he had the right to take off Trumas Meiser. Also, Shoel Rabbi Yochanan, so he came and asked Rabbi Yochanan if you can rely on Fusa. They said, yes, Fusa, Achenu, our brother Neman, who is trustworthy. And therefore, though he's Yisrael, he's believed to say he took off the Trumas Meiser. Rabbi Yasa, boy, Kumi Rabbi Yochanan. Kiman, like whom is this? Rabbi Yossi. Is this like Rabbi Yossi? The Rabbi Yossi Umar Ba'abai Shetarmas Amaisis. Rabbi Yossi who said that a Ba'abai is allowed to take a mice himself. Amalei said, Rabbi Yochanan said to Rabbi Yasa, in Babilaya, yes, Babylonian one. Kamptole. You understood exactly what's going on here. You understood this far. Very good. You're not too dumb. Okay, let's go back to the Mishnah for a minute. You should join us every night. It's good to learn Yerushalmi. It's good for you. And Cheresh, you see it in the Mishnah? Wait a minute. Go wait. Fourth line of the Mishnah. Cheresh and Medaber Yerushalmi. This is a less of a deaf mute. It's more deaf, less mute. Cheresh and Medaber Yerushalmi. He can talk, but he can't hear. He shouldn't take up truma because he can't hear his own bracha. Being Torah, but if he did truma, so truma. The cheresh chachamim said all over is no good at all. That's cheresh who cannot either hear nor speak. But this guy, he's okay. B'di'evet. Okay, let's go back to the Gemara, top of Daled Amud Aleph. L'min Yitzchak, who's this going like? Rabbi Yossi. Who's going like Rabbi Yossi? Hi, Dane Rabbi Yossi. Which Rabbi Yossi are you referring to? How this thing that's one? That which we learned in Brachos a few days ago. Hakorei Shema v'lo Shmi los no yotza. Someone reads Shema, but he can't hear what he's saying. He's yotze. That's Tanakama, who's Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yossi Omer lo yotza. You're not yotze. So nonetheless, we say that even though you're not yotze, that's by Shema. But by Truma, you can take up Truma. Tamati, we learned over there, Hakok Shenli cross the Megillah. Everybody can read Megillah. Chutz Michael Shayt V'Kata. Rav Nasser, said to Rabbi Yossi, who says you can't read the Megillah? It's Rabbi Yossi. Okay? Rabbi Yossi said, Habinat Sarvi Meimer wanted to say Mapli and Rabbi Yossi Rabbanim B'Kriyashma. I thought Rabbi Yossi Rabbanim only are by Kriyashma, Dixi B'Shma, where it says you gotta hear. Hashar Kol Mitzvah Slover, by all the mitzvahs. Rabbi Yossi holds you don't have to hear. Madam Ramas Rabbi Yossi. So that was Ramas said over here. This is going like Rabbi Yossi. Adam Ra must be Rabbi Yossi holds that he Shema. The saying is true. He Shar Kol mitzvahs. You have to hear all the mitzvahs that you do. That's why Rabbi Yossi holds that preferably a cheresh a sheno medaber should not take off truma. My time with Rabbi Yossi, which large Rabbi Yossi is not in the Babli. The sleep va'azanto l'mitzvaysav. You should be able to listen to the mitzvahs. Okay? Let your ears hear what your mouth says. Rav Chisda said you should know, even though it says in Megillah that a cheresh can't read the Megillah, it's not true. It's Modai, it says cheresh shouldn't read the Mishnah, shouldn't read the Megillah. Lav dafka. Shoyt the Kotten shouldn't read the Megillah. Why is cheresh Mishnah mentioned there? Because cheresh is tags along with Shoyt the Kotten all over, so he didn't leave his friends behind. All right, so next week, when we get together on Wednesday, we'll discuss whether this is true or not true.
I don't think we have two English words for this, but a kier is the outer surface and a choma is the wall itself. So her house was in the outer surface of the thick wall which surrounded Yericho. So in any event, Amar Lefana, as Achishia said to Hashem, Rebbeinu Shalom, Racha Basleina, Racha, what did she do? Stay in the Father. She saved you two souls, the two Meraglim. They kind of pushes out to her. Look how many souls you saved for her. We learned the theme, it says, Vayvonorim, all of the lads of Rachel's family came to her to be saved, because the Meraglim made a deal, whoever hides in her house is going to be saved from the destruction of Yericho. And it says, Tanya Rabbi Shimon Yochai said, Afilo Yisovim Mishpachta Mea Masayim Anoshim, even if they were in their family 200 men, V'olchu V'dovchu Masayim Mishpachas, and they went and married 200 girls in 200 different families, Kulam Yitzolu, all the families were saved, exclusive the merit of Rachel. So Chizkiah says, look what you did for Rachel. Avoisai, my forefathers, Shekibul Chokol Gerim Ha'elu, who brought all the Gerim to Klal Yisrael, said that Shlomo Melech himself made 70,000 Gerim. Allah has come much more so as it truly you should save me from the illness which befell me now. He looked at the walls of Beis HaMikdash. Why? Because the Pasuk says, although this Pasuk in Cheskel seems to be derogatory to the Jewish people, here it's taken as praiseworthy to the Jewish people. Betitom sifam es sifi. They made my threshold their threshold. Their threshold my threshold. They made their doorpost, my doorpost. By my doorpost. And there was only a wall between I and between them. This type of Bnei Adam, great people are you, which were at the time Mikdash, but not all of them were able to come down every day in the Beis HaMikdash. As they turned to their wall, and they davened towards the wall, which was a short distance, if not directly outside the Beis HaMikdash. Says Chizkiah about this. Akadosh Baruch Hu Ma'ala Lenku Hispan Beis I'm sorry. My forefathers who did all these great things and made their houses in close proximity to the Beis HaMikdash, to daven in them towards the Beis HaMikdash, even at the time they couldn't come to the Beis HaMikdash proper. So I have such good yichus and such good schus. So Allah's kam I certainly should be saved. Rabbi Shmuel ben Yochanan Amar, B'kira shel Nushramis Nasainam. He looked at the wall of the Shunamis. Shnamar, as it says, Nasa no Aliyas Kirktana, they made for Elisha a small second floor room next to the wall. So he said before Hashem, Rebbeinu Shalom, Hashunamis, the woman in Shunam, Kirachas Elisha, she made one wall for Elisha, and for that you allowed him to resurrect the Shunamis' son. My forefathers who made for you all the glorious Beis HaMikdash. Alachas kama kama tite nafshi, how much more so is it reasonable that you should give me back my soul?
Rabbanan said, Bekiros libo nasoinav. He looked to the walls of his very own heart. As it says, May I, O Chila, my innards, they will tremble. Kilos libi meli, the walls of my heart are pulsating within me. Amar lefanov, what does that mean? So here we say that, who said this davening? Chizkiyo said, Rebbe Shalom, Chazarti al Ramachim Shnesatevi. I look at the 248 limbs you gave me. I haven't found that I angered you at any one of them. Much more so do we say, Tinasin li nafshi. May you give me my soul back. In other words, since Chizkiyo was saying, he was dying. He's saying that since I've looked into my heart and I've done proper tshuva, allow me to regain my health, which in fact happened, and then he had Menashe. He was king already, sure, he was king for a while. Okay, Rabbi Isai.
He did one mistake though.
With the gold, he sold them his treasures, the Babylonians.
No.
Then he made two mistakes.
No, he made with the sukkahs, you know what I mean? The crop, the Pesach.
Yeah.
He moved it up. He moved it another month.
The Kiddush HaChodesh. Very good.
Yeah.
That's very good. You're right. Very good. All right, Rabbi said next week we're going to learn from Monday through Thursday. We're not going to learn on Pesach. Just next week, and perhaps after Pesach again for a couple of days. Next week we're going to learn at my shul. Base Tefillah. That's 3555 Peterson. In the basement, yes. If the door's not open, then the next building, one over, 3553 Peterson, is linked to this passage, and should have a good Shabbos.
The other mistake? He showed him the gold.